Imagine a place where peace reigns absolute, where the light never fades and love is the universal language. Heaven, according to the Bible, is not just a promise, but a destination filled with wonders. Have you ever stopped to think about what it would be like to live eternally in a perfect paradise? This is the vision many hold, but few know the details that make this place so special. While most wonder what happens after death, few dare to explore the vivid descriptions of a heavenly home. What would you do if you had the chance to live in a place where pain and suffering do not exist? A new life, filled with joy and communion, awaits you. And the activities? Can you imagine worshiping with the angels, enjoying a heavenly banquet, or even exploring landscapes that surpass imagination? Every corner of heaven has something unique to offer. Get ready for a journey that goes beyond what the eyes can see. What is really reserved for us in eternity? Let's uncover the biblical promises and discover what awaits us in this eternal paradise. Definition of heaven in the Bible. When we talk about heaven in the Bible, the first thing that comes to mind are the vivid descriptions we find in the scriptures. Revelation, especially, is a rich source of images and symbolism that try to capture the essence of this much-anticipated place. The author, John, describes a celestial city, the New Jerusalem, adorned with pearls, gold, and precious stones. These descriptions, though poetic, aim to convey the idea of a space that goes beyond our current understanding, filled with beauty and wonders. Isaiah also contributes to this conversation, bringing visions of a heaven where there is no pain, sorrow, or crying. He paints a picture of peace and joy, where the righteous enjoy the presence of God. The richness of biblical images invites readers to imagine heaven not just as a physical place, but as a state of being where the fullness of God is experienced in its entirety. It is a space that transcends the limitations of our current world and promises a glorious reality for those who believe. Beyond the literal descriptions, the Bible also mentions heaven as an eternal home. In John 14, Jesus talks about going to prepare a place for his followers, emphasizing the idea that heaven is a home, a dwelling place where the faithful will live in communion with God forever. This personal and intimate definition of heaven makes us reflect on how eternal life is more than a promise, but a reality that awaits us. The concept of heaven in the Bible is also laden with hope. For Christians, it represents the final reward, a destination that brings comfort amid life's tribulations. There is a certainty that beyond the difficulties and sufferings, there is a place of rest and joy reserved for those who persevere in faith. This hope is one of the pillars that sustain the Christian life and motivates many to continue their spiritual journey. Heaven is presented as a space of communion, where all believers gather in the presence of God. The idea of being together, worshiping and glorifying the Lord, brings a profound sense of community and unity. Thus, the definition of heaven in the Bible is multifaceted, encompassing everything from poetic descriptions to promises of an eternal home, always highlighting the importance of God's presence. The nature of heaven. The nature of heaven, as described in the scriptures, is one of the most fascinating characteristics of this concept. The beauty of heaven is frequently mentioned, described as a place of radiant light and vibrant colors. In Revelation, the celestial city is illuminated by the glory of God, a light incomparable to anything we know on earth. This light not only beautifies, but also symbolizes the purity and holiness of the celestial environment. Another essential aspect of heaven is peace. The scriptures speak of a state where there is no more crying, pain, or suffering. For Christians, this promise is a profound relief, especially in times of pain and loss. The nature of heaven is, therefore, a refuge and an escape from life's tribulations. This peace transcends human understanding and becomes a constant expectation for those who have faith. Moreover, the absence of pain and suffering in heaven is a recurring theme. In Revelation 21, we find the promise that God will wipe away every tear. This image is powerful and full of hope, suggesting that the heavenly experience is a liberation from the tribulations we face. This reality brings a new perspective on the suffering we live through here. For believers, pain is temporary, while eternal joy is guaranteed. The characteristics of heaven also include a sense of fullness and satisfaction. The Bible speaks of a state where the faithful will be complete, enjoying full communion with God and one another. This idea of fullness invites reflection on what it truly means to be satisfied. In heaven, the anxieties and dissatisfactions that often afflict us will be replaced by lasting joy that comes from God's presence. The nature of heaven is a reflection of God's character. Everything that is beautiful, pure, and good in heaven is an extension of the divine essence itself. Thus, exploring the nature of heaven leads us to a deep admiration for God's greatness and what He has prepared for those who love Him. It is a reminder that, although we live in an imperfect world, there is a promised reality that is perfect and wonderful: the presence of God. The presence of God in heaven is undoubtedly one of the most significant aspects of this eternal reality. In the Scriptures, God's presence is often associated with light, glory, and holiness. In heaven, this presence is described as something that illuminates everything around, bringing a light that needs no sun or moon. This immersion in divine light not only transforms the environment, but also the experience of those who dwell there. The importance of God's presence in heaven is fundamental to the experience of the faithful. It is the union with the Creator that brings true satisfaction and joy. The Bible teaches us that communion with God is what completes us, and in heaven, this communion will be perfect and uninterrupted. The idea of being eternally in the presence of the Lord is a source of hope that comforts believers' hearts, especially in difficult times. Moreover, God's presence is what differentiates heaven from any other experience we may have. Here on earth, we often seek God's presence in moments of prayer or worship, but in heaven, this search will become reality. The relationship with God will be intense and personal, and each faithful will be able to enjoy an intimate relationship with the Creator. This connection is what makes heaven such a special and desired place. God's presence also brings transformation. Being in the divine presence means being continuously shaped and perfected. The Scriptures speak of the purification and sanctification that occur in the Lord's presence. In heaven, believers will be fully transformed into the image of Christ, experiencing a new life that reflects God's glory. This transformation is an essential aspect of eternal life and promises an existence full of wonders. God's presence in heaven is an invitation to eternal worship. The inhabitants of heaven will be constantly in praise, recognizing the greatness and goodness of God. This worship will not be just an activity, but a natural expression of the joy that comes from being in the Creator's presence. Thus, God's presence is not just an aspect of heaven, but the heart of the celestial experience, where all gather to glorify and worship the one who is worthy of all praise. Activities in heaven. When we think of the activities that the inhabitants of heaven will engage in, the first image that may come to mind is that of a state of continuous worship. The Bible presents heaven as a place of unceasing praise, where angels and the redeemed gather to glorify God. It is interesting to note that this worship is not something tedious or monotonous. On the contrary, it is a vibrant expression of joy and gratitude. Imagine an environment where music, voices, and harmony intertwine in perfect symphony, creating an atmosphere of pure happiness. Besides worship, communion is a vital part of life in heaven. Believers will have the opportunity to relate to each other in a deep and meaningful way. There will be no barriers, misunderstandings, or hurts like those we experience in this world. The interaction among the inhabitants of heaven will be marked by genuine love and unconditional acceptance. It is as if all interactions were elevated to a new level, where empathy and understanding are the norms. Another fascinating aspect of activities in heaven is the service to God. Although it may seem that worship and communion are sufficient, the Bible suggests that there will be tasks to be performed. These activities are not seen as a burden, but as an extension of the joy that comes from serving the Creator. Imagine having the chance to actively participate in building a heavenly environment, contributing to the beauty of heaven with your gifts and talents. This brings a sense of purpose and fulfillment that many of us seek in our current lives. The inhabitants of heaven will also have the opportunity to learn and grow in knowledge. Eternity is a concept that challenges our understanding, but the idea that there will always be more to discover about God and His creation is truly stimulating. With each new day, or rather, each new eternity, Believers will be able to deepen their understanding of the divine nature, learning more about God's love, grace, and majesty. The activities in heaven are not limited to a single type of experience. They are varied and enriching, promising a dynamic environment where worship, communion, service, and learning coexist in harmony. Life in heaven, therefore, is not just a pause from earthly life, but an enriching and glorious continuation that awaits us. Relationships in heaven. When considering relationships in heaven, it is impossible not to think about the continuity of the family ties that many of us value so much. The Bible suggests that the relationships we form here on earth will not dissipate in eternity. Instead, they will be perfected and elevated to a new reality. Imagine reuniting with loved ones who have passed away, and this reunion will be marked not only by joy, but by a profound understanding of love that transcends time and space. Interactions between believers in heaven will be based on unity and love. There will be no place for jealousy, rivalries, or resentments. Each person will be free to express their love and affection, creating an environment of mutual support. The differences that often cause division on earth will give way to harmonious diversity, where each individual is valued for their uniqueness. This creates a rich and vibrant community where everyone contributes to the collective well-being. The Bible also speaks about the idea that we will be known as we are known. This suggests that we will maintain our individual identity in heaven, which is comforting. Our experiences, personalities, and life stories will not be erased, but will be transformed. This continuity in relationships allows us to appreciate even more the connections we form and understand that these bonds are eternal. Life in heaven will also be marked by a profound sense of purpose. Every interaction will be an opportunity for edification, where believers can encourage each other in their spiritual walk. The love and kindness that characterize heavenly relationships will promote continuous growth and strengthening of the bonds between inhabitants. This dynamic of encouragement and love is something many desire to experience in their current relationships. Relationships in heaven promise to be a reflection of divine love. Empathy, compassion, and forgiveness will always be present, creating an environment where every believer feels valued and loved. This vision of eternal relationships, full of joy and harmony, is one of the most comforting promises the Bible offers us about life after death. The glorified body. The transformation that occurs with the bodies of believers is a fascinating and frequently debated topic. In 1 Corinthians 15, Paul speaks about the resurrection of the dead and how our bodies will be transformed into glorified bodies. This idea can generate many questions, but in essence, it is a promise that what is perishable will become immortal. It is a radical change that will allow us to experience the fullness of eternal life, free from limitations. Imagine what this new form will be like. The glorified body will not be subject to pain, fatigue, or death. Instead, it will be a body full of vitality and energy. This transformation is like a rebirth, where each believer will be clothed with a new essence that reflects the glory of God. This idea of a perfect and immortal body is something many of us long for, especially when facing the limitations and challenges of earthly life. Moreover, the glorified body will have the capacity to experience the presence of God more intimately. The Bible speaks of the beatific vision, where we will be able to contemplate the face of God. This implies that our bodies, now transformed, will be in total harmony with the heavenly reality. It is a perspective of fullness and satisfaction that goes beyond what we can imagine, where communion with the Creator is the central experience of life in heaven. Another important point to consider is that this transformation not only benefits us individually, but also reinforces the idea of community in heaven. When all believers are clothed in glorified bodies, unity and harmony become even more evident. There will be no competition or rivalry, but a mutual recognition of the beauty and perfection God has created in each of us. The promise of the glorified body is a source of hope. In a world full of pain and suffering, the idea that one day we will be transformed and renewed brings comfort and expectation. This transformation is not just a physical change, but also a spiritual renewal that will allow us to live in full communion with God and others. It is a glorious vision that motivates us to persevere in faith and look to heaven with hope. Consolation and hope. Heaven for Christians is not just a distant place, but a constant source of consolation and hope. In moments of pain and loss, many find comfort in the promise that beyond life's difficulties, there is an eternal home where sorrow and suffering have no place. It is interesting to note how the scriptures emphasize this idea of hope, especially in passages that speak about eternal life. This expectation of a glorious future serves as a balm for wounded hearts, reminding the faithful that life's tribulations are temporary. It is not uncommon to hear stories of people who, in the midst of mourning, find strength in the biblical promises about heaven. The certainty of reuniting with loved ones, the absence of pain, and the promise of eternal peace bring relief that often seems impossible to achieve in moments of despair. Thus, heaven becomes a beacon of hope, illuminating dark days with the promise of eternal joy. This vision not only calms the spirit, but also encourages Christians to live in a way that honors God, knowing that one day they will be in His presence. Furthermore, the idea that heaven is a place of renewal is deeply comforting. Many believers believe that upon reaching heaven, all wounds, both physical and emotional, will be healed. The vision of a new beginning, free from the limitations and sorrows of earthly life, offers a perspective that can transform the way they handle daily challenges. Heaven, therefore, is not just a future promise, but a motivation to face adversities with faith and courage. The role of heaven as a source of consolation is also reflected in collective worship. The expectation of being surrounded by other believers, praising God in perfect harmony, is a perspective that brings joy and hope. This communion is not just an aspect of heaven. It is a fundamental part of the Christian life that manifests on earth, but will be fully realized in eternity. This connection among Christians, both here and in heaven, strengthens the idea that hope is shared and consolation is found in the community of faith. Heaven stands out as a symbol of hope and consolation, not only for those facing loss, but for all who seek a greater purpose amid difficulties. The promise of an eternal home where one can live in peace and joy is one of the greatest gifts that Christian faith offers, allowing believers to face life with a focus on the future, full of confidence and serenity. The new heaven and the new earth. The promise of a new heaven and a new earth, as described in Revelation 21, is one of the most powerful declarations in the Bible. This renewal is not just an aesthetic transformation, but a complete restoration of what was corrupted by sin. The vision of a world where there is no more pain, suffering, or death is the hope that many Christians carry in their hearts. This new creation represents a return to what God originally planned for humanity, a state of perfect communion with Him and with creation. The idea of a new heaven and a new earth also speaks to the restoration of relationships. In a world marked by division and conflict, the vision of a future where everyone is united in worship and love is profoundly encouraging. This unity is not just among believers, but also with all creation. Nature will be restored to its original beauty, and the harmony that existed before the fall will be restored. This makes us reflect on the importance of caring for the environment and the responsibility Christians have to act as stewards of God's creation. Furthermore, the new heaven and new earth offer a perspective of eternity that goes beyond what we can imagine. The Bible gives us glimpses of this glorious future, but what is to come surpasses our current understanding. This expectation of a glorious future is an incentive for Christians to live in a way that reflects the values of God's kingdom now, seeking justice, love, and peace in their daily interactions. Life in the present is a reflection of the hope we have for the future. The promised renewal is also a reminder of the temporality of current life. While Christians eagerly await this transformation, it is important to remember that what we live now is temporary. The difficulties and sufferings we face are only part of the journey. The hope in a new heaven and new earth encourages us to persevere and keep the faith, even in times of trial. This vision of a glorious future serves as a reminder that God is always in control, working for the good of His children. The new heaven and new earth become a testament to God's faithfulness to His promises. The certainty that He will fulfill what He has said brings peace to the hearts of believers, even when life's circumstances seem uncertain. The expectation of a perfect future, where God's presence will be fully experienced, is a source of joy and hope that Christians carry with them, knowing that they are not alone in their journey and that eternity awaits them. So, folks, we have reached the most exciting moment. After this journey through what the Bible reveals to us about heaven, it is time to reflect together. Have you ever stopped to imagine what this eternal paradise will be like? A place where love and peace reign, where there is no pain, sorrow, or separation. It is hard not to feel excited, isn't it? Now, think a bit. How will our coexistence with others be? We will be surrounded by those we love and, who knows, even reuniting with friends that life took away. And the activities we will do there? Will we sing? Praise? Explore? What would you like to do in this new home? Remember, the hope we find in the scriptures invites us to live with purpose here and now. Life on earth is just a chapter, and heaven is our true home. So, how about enjoying each day as preparation for this glorious eternity? Comment below your expectations about heaven and share your thoughts with us. And don't forget, if you liked this video, subscribe and hit the bell for more content that will inspire and edify you. See you next time.